Here we go. We're recording now. Okay. So this is our 8th week that we've been doing these, and it just is crazy. I feel like it's just flown by. So I would love for you guys to type in the chat box whether you've been on once or whether you've been on all 8 times. What's one thing that you've learned during our time together, or that maybe you've appreciated, or just something that has stuck out to you, and that you've learned during any of the ones that you've been on. Let me roll and try to mute. Sorry guys, hold on one second. Heather, if you're logged in, I may have to have you help me mute because it's not working. Okay, perfect. Okay, there we go. So let's see. Aha, got it. Okay. Okay, so I shameless plug. Several of you guys have messaged and asked me about the t-shirt
show it to you.
Been seeing. Oh, there we go. That you've been seeing. So if you are interested in a Blessed and Busy t-shirt or our work t-shirt that has all of my favorite mindset words on it, several of you guys have asked. You can find them on everythinglifeandrealestate.com under the merch tab for merchandise. And so just wanted to, and thank you to those of you who have already bought one. I've seen several of you posting them, and so we appreciate that. Oh, Amy, I think this is your 4th time. Great. Oh, Renee, grandbaby number 5 is on the way. That's awesome. Amy, the struggles we have today give us the strength we need for tomorrow. Love it. Dawn Oldrix. Oh, I'm like flattered that you are on. Thanks for being on today. It's what you do. Let's see. It's what you do, not when you do it. Yes. Oh, Monica, thanks for being on all 8 times. I love that you are on. Thank you so much. So, okay, guys, who ordered the 5-year book, and who has begun, and who wants to just quickly share something from your book? From the book, I know you guys have been texting me pictures, so would love to know if you can unmute yourself. I'm trying to mute. Oh, Dawn, good. Coming tomorrow. Who has started on the book so far? Book arrives today. Perfect. I know some of you guys have ordered. Okay. Okay, then I'll have to ask you next week. Or if you have, type in the, yes, Stephanie, I know you've read it several times too. If you haven't, this was homework from last week. A great book. Am I muted? That's weird. Sorry guys, we're having technical. Troy, can you hear me? I can see you. Okay, I don't know why you're the only one I can see right now. Okay, perfect. Yes, Jennifer. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so so make sure, just received it yesterday. I'm reading. Okay, good. Okay, good. We're gonna come back to this next week then. So the book is Where Will You Be 5 Years From Today? It's like $11 on Amazon. And there's tons of great things to work through in that book. So I want to start, before I talk to our guest today, I want to start with, I know this is yesterday's. However, when I read this yesterday, I knew I wanted to share it today. So this is from the John Maxwell Daily Reader book. And I don't know if you guys can see me or not, but I've had mine. Can you see me and the screen, Troy? Okay, so I've had mine for so long that the cover is actually gone. I'm pretty sure Frankie has chewed up the back half and the top of the back part of this book, which is hilarious. Like some of my pages are ripped. However, this is like my go-to. I think this is my 7th year I've had this book. So I would show you what the cover looks like, but I don't have the cover. But it's called the John Maxwell Daily Reader. So managing your attitude. I grew up in a small town, rural Ohio, and there were plenty of farms nearby. I once heard a farmer say that the hardest thing about cows is that they never stay milked. A similar thing can be said about a good attitude. The hardest thing about having a good attitude is that it doesn't stay that way on its own. If you're like most people, just getting to work in the morning is a test of your attitude. I live in the Atlanta area, this is John, which is notorious for its bad traffic. The latest report I read stated that we had the 4th worst traffic in the nation behind LA, San Francisco, Washington, D.C. So every time I get in my car, I remind myself, today I'm going to have a great attitude. that doesn't mean that I always succeed. I have to remain sensitive to my personal attitude indicators. If I notice myself getting impatient, which is by far my greatest attitude challenge, and that's probably one of mine as well, I try to remind myself to have a good attitude. If I hear myself making cynical remarks, I check my attitude. If I find myself wanting to throw in the towel and stop developing people because they're not catching on quickly enough, I make an attitude correction. And my fail-safe attitude indicator is Margaret, my wife. If it's starting to get out of line, she tells me. And if I have actually had the pleasure of meeting them, and she definitely would tell him, which is the most hilarious part. John says, in my book, Today Matters, one of the concepts I write about is that most people overrate decision making and they underrate decision managing. It's pretty easy to say to yourself, from now on, I'm going to have a great attitude. It's much harder to actually follow through with it. That's why I believe one of the best things you can do for yourself is make the daily management of your attitude one of your objectives. And so I just love that, because I think as we've been talking about mindset, attitude is such a massive part of that. And it's like John said, it's not something that, we just wake up and it's easy to keep all day long. So I wanted to start by sharing that with you. And then what I would love to do next is, if you remember, some of you who've been on, I know Monica will remember because she's been on all 8 times, we talked about John Maxwell sharing nourishment centers, which is when John says you should have nourishment centers around you. You should have quotes, or you should have scripture, or you should have music, or you should have photo and albums on your phone, or you should have those people that when your attitude is starting to slip, and they're never people that you lead, by the way. If you're a leader, it should never be the people that you lead. It should be someone that's kind of equal on your leadership level, or a friend, or someone kind of above you. Because remember, you never want to complain down, is what John says. But one of the nourishment centers that he talks about are people that you can go to when your attitude kind of starts to slip, if you will. Or if you're needing that. And so I have talked about Josh numerous times on here and probably never said his name. But Josh Shepler is one of my best friends. He's my business partner. And honestly, he's one of my top nourishment centers. And some of you have met Josh and some of you haven't. So this will be a good treat for you guys today. However, I do want to stop sharing really fast. Josh, are you on?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. Okay, good morning. So if you guys go at the top and hit speaker view, you should be able to actually see when the speaker talks a little bit more. So Josh, thanks for being on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be part of your nourishment center. I didn't realize I was that.
Yeah, you are. You knew that you are. So you guys, Josh, I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself, but Josh is honestly, and I'll brag on him for a minute. Josh is one of those people, and those of you that know Josh, he always seems to be in a good mood. He always has a good mindset. He always has a good attitude. And I know that he does, not because he's special or different than any of us, but because he works on it. And because he is probably one of the most learning-based people that I know. And he chooses every day to have a great attitude. And he chooses, even during difficult times, or maybe times in his life where he's faced challenges, it was funny because he popped in the office this morning. I'm going to tell on you. He popped in the office this morning early. I was here early, like at 7 today. And he came in and I said, "Are you ready for 9?" And he said, "Well, yeah, I've got 785 pages of John Maxwell notes and Craig Groeschel notes." And he said, "I'm going to go and find them all and flip through." And I laughed because that's one of the things I love about Josh. So Josh, we're just going to rapid fire, and Josh could talk about mindset for 7 hours. And we've got about 18 minutes left, I think. So first of all, I don't know that we're gonna have time to go full blown background and you own businesses and all those things. But I think, gosh, where do I want to start? I think I want to start, Josh, with let's talk about first why mindset's important to you.
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. Well, obviously, that mindset I take very seriously. I have been blessed with a very great life. However, just like everybody, I've had my fair share of setbacks and hardships and challenges. And that's the one thing that's always been constant in my life through everything is a positive mindset. That's one thing that I've always practiced. So it's always been super important.
So do you think you were like born that way, or did you learn to become that way?
Oh, let's see. I think I was born that way. I think, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's
Okay.
something that I think I've always, in life, sometimes you just have to be who you need to be. And I think I've always needed to be a positive person, not just for myself, but even for my friends.
Well, I
Uh,
definitely think that that's your superpower. That's one of your superpowers for sure.
yeah, yours too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
So how do you work on it? How do you stay in a great mindset? And drop us some mindset nuggets. And yes, Terrell, good morning. If you guys have questions, type them in the chat because we're just kind of gonna rapid fire. And actually, Terrell, that was one of my questions too. So actually, we can start with that, Josh. What are some of the things that you do on a regular basis to stay in that place?
Well, first thing is I wake up early in the morning. I think if you wake up early in the morning, then you control your day. You set your priorities first before you set other people's. And I think that's the first thing that we all want to do is we want to get up and we want to check our emails and check Facebook. We check everything before we check our own priorities. And that automatically, when you wake up in the morning and if you're doing that, you're not in the correct mindset. I need to get up. I need to have my time. I need to read my daily affirmations. I need to read my devotional. I need to get in the correct headspace. So when I do deal with those things, when I open that email and see the challenge that I'm faced for that day, or I get that call, then I know how to handle it. I think one of the biggest things for me that I've always done is I'm a big energy person. So I've always found those people that I could surround myself with that were going to enrich my life through energy. And I feel like I protect my energy because that's the number one thing is for me, when I have positive mindset, it's because I have the energy to be positive. And if you have those people in your life that are energy vampires, they're going to suck the life out of you. You have to have those people in your life. So I think one of the biggest things for me to have a positive mindset is that I've continued to place people in my life purposefully and keep those people surrounded. And I think obviously that's a big contributing factor.
How do you protect yourself from the energy suckers?
My time with them. And obviously having their correct mindset when you're around people that are negative. And the hard part is too, sometimes those negative Nancy's can be people in your family. And I think that's one thing that you have to recognize is they aren't bad people. They just show up in different ways to you. You just have to know what's your triggers. And for me, it's energy. If my energy is being zapped, then that's a red flag to me. I have to have someone who's going to build me up instead of tear me down. And unfortunately, sometimes friends, you think that they're friends, but they're really not. They're just there to tear you down. So it's selecting the right people.
You reminded me of something. This is one of my very favorite books ever. And if you lead a team, I know I give you guys like way too many books, so don't ever feel like you just have to go buy every single one of them, but one of them may speak to you at a different time. I just noticed Blair's little portable heater is what my background is today.
I totally noticed that.
This is The Management Methods of Jesus by Bob Reiner. This is just such a good book. I don't remember. Somebody gave this to me. Actually, I think Linda McKissick gave me this book probably close to like 8 or 9 years ago. But one of the things that I wanted to share, you just talked about in here, he said, and this is for some of you who are faith-based people, it says staying in touch with real people in your lives. He said Jesus touched lives in every level of society. He had many discourses with the societal leaders of the day, but he chose some of the most humble people and very carefully chose his closest associates. And I think that always spoke to me because that whoever you're around, that just what you said, that you have to kind of protect that and choose carefully.
Yeah, 100%. And I think going in with that, I think we heard it at Catalyst last year is that if God wants to bless you, blesses you with the relationship. And I think that's a friend yeah. Any type of relationship, but you have to choose those friends wisely. They'll either empower you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so talk to us about maybe a time if you, I know we all have times where things happen to us, and maybe it's a struggle, or we're trying to overcome something, or we're trying to work through something, and it may not be a positive situation, but keeping your headspace. Can you think of a time or an example, and kind of how you powered through, for lack of better words?
Oh yeah, I can for sure think of challenges and times. Well, first I want to say is like John Maxwell always says. So let's just start dropping the little John Maxwell nuggets. He says, if you want to impress people, talk about your successes. If you want to impact people, talk about your failures. And I think number one is just being transparent, is that we all have failures. And if you've built yourself up and you think that you don't have failures, then you're only setting yourself up for failure. When you have a positive mindset, that doesn't mean, you're not going to have a bad day. It just means when you get knocked down, you're just going to be able to get back up twice as fast. And that's what I've learned, is that you have to know and realize that you're going to get knocked down. So you're not some superhero. You just have to automatically know that when you get knocked down, that your mindset's going to pick you back up super fast. And I think, in the book Shift, it even says that the most successful people are good at plan B. And John Maxwell says you have to have, especially in times like this, you have to have a plan C, D, E, F, and G. And that plan B is your mindset for me. Like plan B is that I always know when my mind's right, I can get back up twice as fast. But if I'm thinking about obviously something that took me probably to rock bottom, there's been a million things that obviously are setbacks, but it was a business relationship that I've had. I know obviously you know exactly what I'm talking about. We had started a real estate company and went through all the motions, and we're on top of the world. We were doing selling a house like every 6 days, and we're just on top of the world. We had agents, we were recruiting, we had our own company. We thought we had it all figured out until we discovered our differences. After that split, it literally left me not knowing what to do. And the worst part of it wasn't about a business for me. That happened to be with one of my best friends. So that really set me back. And I think through that, hitting rock bottom, I was only able to get through that with my mindset. I know that I've never allowed a circumstance to define me. And I always knew that I didn't want to be buried by it. I wanted to be built by that circumstance. So if you are mentally strong, then you can get through anything. I think we all first think about our physical strength, but I think our mental strength is equally as important or more important. We go to the gym to work out. We do all these things for our bodies. But for me, I've always listened to podcasts, read books to get my mental strength. And I know you're going to laugh, but I always say that mindset is the new abs. If you can, mindset is the new abs. If you can win a marathon with your physical strength, but I truly believe that you can win your life with mental strength. Yeah. So I firmly believe that.
I've never heard you say that before. I really like that.
What, mindset is the new abs?
Yeah.
Okay, well, get a t-shirt made. Like, go ahead and get it in the works. I know you want to. And then, and two, like I've always said, in times of uncertainty, obviously we're a million uncertainty times going on right now. But we all have lows in our life. That mindset will act as a compass in times of uncertainty that will lead you in the right direction. And we all know, and we've all been there in times when in your personal life, when all you can do is get up out of the bed and put your feet on the ground. You need that mindset to lead you, because you don't have anything else at that moment. You might be alone. You might be trying to figure it out. And if you have your mind strength, you can get through anything. That's going to act as the compass to take you to where you need to go. And if you don't have it when you need it, it's going to be too late. You have to practice it way before.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You and I have talked a lot about, and I always have people write down the 5 words, I was born for this, no matter what you're doing, because that's really what you were born to do. Talk a little bit about how you kind of make decisions based on your mindset and your attitude and your faith, for maybe what kind of guides you.
Well, obviously every day I think we're faced with daily choices, and we know that our mindset determines our choices, and our choices determine our life. And with the correct mindset, I know that I can make a choice every single day. And it's not that I'm going to avoid failure, it's that I'm going to view failure in a different way, that I view failure as progress, and it's part of the process. And I think, I don't remember, John Maxwell said at some point that failure can be viewed a different way. And some people view failure as a personal perspective, and they're the ones that have the scarcity victim mentality. And then there's people that view it as a process perspective. And that's where they say it's part of the process, and they're able to get back up much quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that did. Can you touch on, I'm just kind of, if you guys have questions that you want to know too, type them in the chat. I'm just kind of touching on a couple that I have. I'd like for you to touch on worrying a little bit, because I think especially in these times, there can be a lot to worry about. And I love in this book, he talks about worrying is counterproductive when it comes to having faith, because this book says worry, on the other hand, is by definition useless fretting about things over which we have no control, and it produces no positive results. So talk a little bit about worry, and then we'll go to Troy's question.
Wow. Well, you know that I'm a huge faith person, and I rely every single day, and I rely on daily prayer, hourly prayer, to lead me through every single day. And I believe that God planted peace in our hearts. As part of life, we have worry, we have doubts, we have all this that are weeds in our heart. And if we take the time and we have a prayer life that's strong, then we're able to allow God to shine light into our hearts, which ultimately grows our peace. So I feel like mindset, and having the right mindset, you're able to have that peace that you need, that honestly, you don't even worry. Because if you know that there's a bigger picture, there's someone above you, then you know that it's all being taken care of. I was going to pull this up. I know John Maxwell just talked on one of his recent podcasts about going to the presidential libraries, to JFK's in Boston. Did you see that one? And he had said that on his desk, he always kept a plaque that said, "Oh God, thy sea is so great and my boat is so small." And I love that. And John said he kept it on his desk for two reasons, because it expressed awareness and dependence. And he said that he looked at that every day, and it said that he knew that there were things much bigger. He had an awareness that there were things much bigger than him, and that he had a dependence on God and faith that was greater than him to get him through this process as a leader, to lead the country. So he kept that up. So I think that goes hand in hand, and man, I love that.
That's good. I didn't hear that. That's really good.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm writing down stuff too.
Like I have to go get that. So that was a big one for me, because we all have to have an awareness. And I think that is the key to mindset, is that it makes us aware of things.
Yeah.
And practicing. And honestly, mindset is your armor. Like when you get up of the morning, you've famously said in real estate or whatever business that you're in, you can be at the highs of highs and at the pits of where every single day. And you don't know what you're going to be faced with. And even personally, you don't know what you're going to be faced with when you wake up in the morning. It's like a soldier. Before they go on the battlefield, they put on their armor. And your mindset has to be your armor. And it can be as strong as you want it. You just have to practice it. And know that when you face a challenge or you come into contact with a battle that you don't think that you can face, with the right mindset, you can get through it, because you have that armor built up around you. And that's how important mindset is to me, that when you become so aware that you have such armor, nothing scares you. You don't have a scarcity mindset. You have an abundance mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, hold on. Before we get to these questions, I want to, Laura asked, hi, Laura, thanks for being on. Did you say that worry and doubts are weeds? We go back to that for one sec.
What was it?
She said,
worry and doubt
are weeds.
Worry and doubt are like weeds in our heart.
And because I remember what you were talking about when John said worrying is like fertilizing weeds in your garden.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we have an awareness of God, and we take time to pray, we're saying that we know that there's something above us, that he is the only one that can get us through it. Then he's going to shine light into our gardens, and that gives us peace that only he can give.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we only have 2 minutes left. I had a whole slew of questions. You'll have to come back. Before you answer Troy's, I really want you to talk about this really quickly that we talked about this morning. And it was where did we hear this? It was the Craig Groeschel quote. If you don't design your life, you'll only drift. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Let me pull it up there. Well, we're all drifting in a direction. And he said, if you don't design your life, you're going to drift into the future. And I loved it because he said, nobody drifted to a destination they would have chosen. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's like spoke directly to my soul.
So just to speak into that one a little bit more, because I thought the same thing. I loved that you came in here and said that, because I had that in my notes from yesterday.
Well, and he said you only drift to bad places. Mm-hmm. So if you don't design your life, you're going to react and drift. So if you're leading a purposeful life built around positive mindset, then you know where you're going to go. You don't have to, when you get up in the morning and you put your armor on and you've got the correct mindset, you're not going to drift. You're going to put one foot in front of the other, and you're going to know exactly where you're going to go. And I don't know, one day at church, I think you and I were together, that he said, it's direction, not intention, that determines destination. You don't intend to do bad things. And I think that goes hand in hand with that. And I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, really quickly, morning routine. Do you have one?
Morning routine. I get up again. I do my daily affirmations. I've kept a journal forever.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
I've kept a journal. I've shared with everybody, and I shared with you. My granny had journals her whole entire life. She did it every single day. It was a ritual, a routine. So I've continued that. I encourage my team every single day to have use their journals. It's been very interesting watching some of them over the years. When I said at the beginning, it's crazy to think some people don't think they have a lot to be grateful for or to journal. So I said, well, day one, if you can think of one thing that you're grateful for, put it in your journal. And as it evolved, every single week they started sharing many things because they were being intentional about what they were grateful for. So that for me has always been a huge thing. Is my journal, my daily affirmations, my devotional, and just getting up early and setting a pace for my day.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Oh my gosh, it's 9:30. We could have kept going.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because we have a million notes.
Okay, well, you'll have to come back and share again. You guys, thanks for being on. Come back, give Josh some love in the chat. Maybe share something that was your biggest aha from today. Man, it was really fast, I know. So, Josh, you'll have to come back and
rapid fire.
Let me come back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hopefully that gave everybody a couple nuggets.
I know. Thank you. Thanks, guys. We'll post more in the Facebook group. So have a great rest of your week. Josh, part 2, 3, and 4. Amy, I love that. we'll have Josh part 2, 3, and 4. Okay, guys, have a great week. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Josh. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.